Okay, guys, when I started grading this assignment that was due today, I realized really quickly that most of you did not fully grasp the assignment, the instructions, as well as the idea that I wanted you to do some research on some of these things that weren't necessarily mentioned specifically in the book or my lecture in order to complete the assignment. So what I'm going to do here is kind of go through the assignment. So this is the carbohydrates as ingredients assignment, and discuss what I'm looking for and go through the first problem in it with you guys. So it's asking you to look at this ingredient list and determine which of the ingredients are sugars, starches, or complex carbohydrates. Not all of these ingredients are going to fall into one of these categories. In addition, there are some ingredients that they might be a source of a sugar or a carbohydrate, but they are not added for that purpose. They are not only a sugar, starch, or complex carbohydrate. So what I'm looking for here is specifically ingredients that are sugars, starches, or complex carbohydrates, and that's all they are. Okay, so let's go through this first ingredient list, which is number 1 in the assignment. And so there'll be no excuse for anybody to get this one wrong. And go through it just ingredient by ingredient. Okay, so sugar, that one's pretty obvious, right? So we'll put sugar in here. Fructose, right? That is a sugar that we have talked about. Okay, cocoa. So if I were to look up cocoa, it does have carbohydrates in it, but it is not only a carbohydrate. Okay, so I'm not going to put cocoa as one of the answers. Okay, whey protein concentrate. Okay, so just looking at this one, um, it says protein concentrate. So proteins are not carbohydrates, and so I could pretty much figure it out with that, but I want you to Google things if you don't know or if you aren't sure. So whey protein concentrate, okay, and get past all of this, okay. Um, and you're just trying to find in the results, something that's telling you what it is, right? And this one is pretty obvious just in the name, right? But it's protein. If you're not getting a good answer in the top results, like, just what is it? You can say, is it a carbohydrate? Okay. Um, so look, if you look at this here. So whey, this is whey, and just regular whey, not whey protein concentrate. Okay, and 1 cup or 246 grams. So within that, there are 13 grams of carbohydrates. So it's much less carbohydrates than, like, carbohydrates do not even compose the majority of the whey. Okay, now whey protein concentrate, they've concentrated the protein. That's what it's saying, and so it's more protein per amount, okay? Higher percentage of protein. Um, so this is not a carbohydrate, okay? Um, it is composed of other things besides carbohydrates. So that is not going to be one of our ingredients that we put in one of these three categories, okay? Soy protein isolate, okay? So the same thing here. It says it has protein in the name. It's not going to be a carbohydrate. It possibly has some carbohydrate in it, but it is not a carbohydrate ingredient, okay? Gum arabic. So if you aren't sure on that one, let's look it up. Gum, oops, Arabic. Okay. So here, just looking at Wikipedia. Okay. So it tells us it is a tree gum. Not indicated chemical source. Uh, Harvested from wild trees. Then let's look at the second paragraph. Gum arabic is a complex mixture of glycoproteins and polysaccharides, predominantly polymers of arabinose and galactose. Okay. Um, it's what it's used for. It's used in the soft drink industry as a stabilizer. Um, so yes, there are glycoproteins, but two things. It does have polysaccharides, okay, and it goes into the polysaccharides more than the glycoproteins. It tells us that it's soluble in water, like gums, and it's used as a stabilizer. And it has the word gum in it, okay? So we've talked about gums as one of our complex carbohydrates. So you could probably figure this one out without Googling it, even if you don't remember gum arabic being mentioned in the book, because it has the word gum in it. Okay, so I'm going to put gum arabic in under complex carbohydrates. Okay, now cellulose gel. Well, that one's pretty obvious. We know cellulose is a complex carbohydrate, and this is just a gel made out of cellulose. So that is going to go under complex carbohydrates. Okay, sweet dairy whey. Well, I just looked up whey, right? And whey is not predominantly carbohydrates, okay? It's not something we've talked about in the book. And whey has a lot of protein in it. So this is not going to be one that I input as one of my three categories. Okay, non-fat dry milk. Okay, well, it's milk. It's not a carbohydrate. There's lots of things in milk besides carbohydrates. It's not a pure carbohydrate. So this is not going to be one that we put in our three categories either. Okay, next, powdered cellulose. Well, that one's easy, right? It's cellulose. It's one of our complex carbohydrates. It's not a sugar or a starch. So I'm going to put it under complex carbohydrates. Okay, guar gum, another gum, another complex carbohydrate. Carrageenan, this is another one that we have talked about in the book and in the lecture. So, carrageenan. Okay, modified cornstarch. This one's easy. Make sure you put the whole name here. Modified cornstarch. Don't just put cornstarch. Okay, dextrose. So, if you don't know this one, look it up. But what I will tell you is dextrose is, it's going to tell you right here, the type of sugar. Dextrose is another name for glucose. Dextrose is just the food industry name for glucose. Well, it says it's almost identical to glucose, but it's basically the food industry name for glucose. So this is going to be a sugar, dextrose. Okay. So next we have soybean lecithin. Okay, if I don't know what that is, let's look it up. Soybean lecithin. Okay, so it's going to tell us, so this is talking about how it doesn't contain sufficient soy protein residues. I'm just scrolling through here till I see something about proteins or carbohydrates or something else. Okay, so here is talking about a certain kind of soybean lecithin consisting of more than 95% phosphatidylcholine, less than 2% triglycerides. So that doesn't really sound like carbohydrates, but let's just keep looking. Okay. Oh, let's see. Maybe USA Today will tell us. Okay, so what exactly is soy lecithin? The food additive Um, Still not telling me what it is made out of. Oh, here we go. Lecithin is a naturally occurring fatty molecule. Okay, so telling me it's fat, right? I'm not going to put it under one of my carbohydrates. Okay, so some of this, it's if you don't already know what the ingredient is, it's going to require some digging. And that's what I wanted you to do with this. Be curious. Um, look things up. Okay, so soybean lecithin. Next is cellulose gum. So there's two keywords there, right? We have cellulose, which we know is a fiber complex carbohydrate, and gum. So cellulose gum. Soy fiber. So that has the word fiber in it. Let's look it up just to make sure. Okay. Um, so be careful here because this is telling us soybean, right? And it's telling us how much dietary fiber in it. So this is not the same thing as what I Googled, okay? It's telling me how much fiber is in soy, not about the ingredient, okay? So if I was just looking at soy, that would, um, it would tell me that no, soy is not a carbohydrate. But that's not what I'm looking for, okay? So soy fiber, higher water binding capability. Soy fiber is a natural way to increase fiber. Um, so fiber product made from cell wall fiber, and this tells us a little bit about protein, but um, that keyword fiber is telling us soybean fiber is first human invented plant-based protein fiber. Byproduct of soybeans. Okay, so it's taking the fiber from the soybean, the cellulose from the soybean, and it's concentrated so that we're adding it as a functional ingredient. So soy fiber is going to go under complex carbohydrates. Okay, xanthan gum, that is one that we've talked about in our studies. So xanthan gum is an easy one to put under complex carbohydrates. Okay, maltodextrin. So that one has malto, which sounds kind of like maltose, and dextrin, which sounds kind of like dextrose. I think this might be in here, but let's look it up and see what it really is. So maltodextrin, okay, white water-soluble powder that is used as food additives. Okay, oh, it's a carbohydrate. Okay, that's made from plant starches that are, and now don't stop there. Okay, that is made from plant starches that are chemically processed to break them down. If we break down starches, what happens? It might turn into a sugar. So let's look it up some more. Let's be curious. Okay. So it's a type of carbohydrate. Let's go back up here. Okay. Uh, okay, it's a type of carbohydrate. Intense processing, white powder. Um, they add enzymes to break it down more. Uh, Final product is a water-soluble white powder with a neutral taste. Powder is used as an additive to replace sugar and improve their texture, shelf life, and taste. Okay. Um, Now so it's not really telling me how much it's broken down. If it's broken down to what we would consider a sugar that is a mono or disaccharide. And so I'm going to look for images of maltodextrin and see what it looks like. Is it a big long molecule or is it pretty short? Okay. And here I am getting, look, it's a disaccharide. Okay. Um, Double check. So here it's just showing me a single minute chemical structure. Actually, see chemical formula. Is it only a certain size, or can it be long chain? So they all. Okay. So they're oh, this is telling me something better. Maltodextrins are by definition hydrolyzed starch, built up by units of alpha D glucose bound together with the generic formula. And so you have C6H10O5. So you see this in here? That's telling me that it can be a long chain, okay? And so now I have a better answer, okay? You probably could have guessed it when it said it was broken down starch, but um, now we've really confirmed it. So under starches, I'm going to put maltodextrin, okay? So next ingredient is artificial flavors, and that's not carbohydrates, that's just flavor, okay? Flavor can be sweet, it can be something totally different. So that is not going to be one of my ingredients that I put assigned to a category. And then aspartame. We haven't talked about aspartame much. So if you don't know what it is, let's just look it up. The low calorie artificial sweetener. Okay. So aspartame is not a sugar. If you look at this chemical formula here, that's useful. Has carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. The fact that it has nitrogen in it tells me it is not a carbohydrate. Okay, and it's an artificial sweetener, so it's not sugar. So that is the full ingredient list, and these are the ingredients that get assigned to a category. So this is what I want you to do for the rest of the questions here. Um, Look at each ingredient and is it a carbohydrate at all? If it is, assign it. If you don't know what the ingredient is at all, Google it. If you are really struggling, you can ask me. This is what probably most of you should have been doing this past week when you did not understand the assignment and had no clue what you're looking at with this long list of ingredients. Hey, Dr. Cruzen, can you help me with this? I don't really understand what I'm doing here. And if you had done that and tried to work on this before, 7 o'clock on Monday night, and had the time to ask me that, I could have provided help, as well as understood that a lot of you might have been struggling, and I could have helped you in this way, making a video like this or providing some more clarity for everyone before uh, this was due. Odds are, if you have a question, somebody else does too. When I get questions from you guys, a lot of times I'm just like, oh, this is actually a really good question, and other people may have it. And so if you've been one of those people that do ask me questions, you've probably often seen that I don't just answer the question to you, I actually send a message to the entire class. And that's because y'all have good questions, and I want you to ask me them so I can help not just you, but everybody else in your class. So finish this up. Rework this, and it will be due next Tuesday along with your other homework that is actually due next week. Remember that the homework that's due next week, the assigned homework is now the homework that's on the next page in your lab manual, the carbohydrate pyramid. And I gave you the analogies as just extra credit if you wish to work on that. Okay. So again, just let me know if you have any questions.